Biological diversity, or biodiversity, it refers to all of the different kinds of life on Earth. It's often used to refer to the total number of different species on Earth. I'm going to explain today the general characteristics of many species of living organisms. But before all, we have to know what's meant by binomial nomenclature. Simply, binomial nomenclature is developed in 18th century by the scientist who is Carl Linnaeus. Generally, Carl Linnaeus, he put the binomial nomenclature, for example, the humans. Its binomial nomenclature is Homo sapiens. And lions, its binomial nomenclature is Panthera lion. Generally, Carl Linnaeus classified every organisms into kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. So, when I tell you what's meant by taxonomy, taxonomy is a system by which we name and classify all organisms. From the 1960s to around 1990, scientists expanded the system into 5 kingdoms. What are they? Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. There are 5 kingdoms. Some scientists added a 6th one, which is called Archaebacteria. Simply Archaebacteria, it includes extremophiles, that are microorganisms that live in extreme environments. Today, scientists use 3-domain system, which is based on DNA analysis. And the name Archaebacteria had to be changed to Archae because they are not bacteria. Domain bacteria, they are single-celled organisms with no internal membranes. So, they don't have a nucleus, they don't have mitochondria, they don't have chloroplasts. Some of the bacteria are aerobics and the others are anaerobics. Simply, bacteria play a vital role in the ecosystems, and they are decomposers. Many of them are pathogenic. It means disease-causing. They play a vital role in genetic engineering. How? Example, the Escherichia coli in human. In the human's small intestine, in the human's intestines are used to make human insulin. Some bacteria carry out conjugation. What's meant by conjugation? It's a primitive form of sexual reproduction where individuals exchange genetic materials. Generally, bacteria have a thick, rigid cell wall. Bacteria have no introns that are non-coding regions within the DNA. The second one is domain Archaea. They are unicellular and prokaryotic. It means no internal membrane. They include extremophiles, that are organisms that live in extreme environments, like the methanogens. What are the methanogens? Methanogens, they obtain energy in a unique way by producing methane from hydrogen. Halophiles, they thrive in environments with high salt concentrations, like the Great Salt Lake. Also, thermophiles. Thermophiles, they thrive in very high temperature, like in the hot springs in Yellowstone Park or in deep sea hydrothermal vents. The third one is domain Eukarya. Domain Eukarya, they live they have a nucleus and internal organelles. They include 4 kingdoms that are Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. Let's talk about the first one, which is Protista. Protista, all of them are eukaryotes. Most of them are single-celled, but many are primitive multi-celled organisms. They include autotrophs and heterotrophs. Autotrophs as Euglena. Euglena contains red eye spot to locate light, and it has chlorophyll to carry out photosynthesis process. Heterotrophs as amoeba and paramecium. Some of them cause diseases as the malaria. Let's talk about the kingdom fungi. Fungi are heterotrophic eukaryotes. They can be either unicellular or multicellular. They carry out extracellular digestion by secreting hydrolytic enzymes. How? They secrete hydrolytic enzymes outside the body. After digestion, the nutrients are absorbed into the fungal body by absorption. They are decomposers. They are saprobes. It means they obtain food from decaying organic matter as they recycle. As such, they recycle the nutrients into an ecosystem. Their cell walls are composed of chitin, not cellulose. Certain fungi combine with algae in a mutualistic symbiotic relationship, forming the lichens. Generally, the lichens are photosynthetic. They can survive harsh, cold environment and even on bare rock. They reproduce asexually by budding as yeast, spore formation, as bread mold, or fragmentation. They also reproduce sexually. For example, the yeast, the mold, the mushrooms, and the fungus that causes athlete foot. The kingdom plantae, as mosses, ferns, non-bearing and flowering plants. They are multicellular, non-motile, autotrophic eukaryotes. Their cell walls are made of cellulose. Plants carry out photosynthesis using chlorophyll A and B. Plants store carbohydrates as starch. Some plants have vascular tissue, are called tracheophytes. Others, they don't have vascular tissue and are called bryophytes. Now let's talk about the kingdom Animalia. Animalia, they are heterotrophic. They are multicellular eukaryotes. Most are motile and can move on their own. Most animals reproduce sexually. In most species, a small flagellated sperm fertilizes a large non-motile egg. They are grouped into 35 phyla. We commonly discuss 9 of them, that are the Porifera, Cnidarians, Platyhelminthes, nematodes, annelids, mollusks, arthropods, echinoderms, and chordates. When we talk about the Porifera as sponges, they consist of a loose federation of cells which are not considered tissues because the cells are relatively unspecialized and don't function as a unit. Cnidarians, like the hydra and jellyfish, they possess only the most primitive and simplest forms of tissue. As larger and more complex animals evolved, specialized cells joined to form real tissues, organs, and systems. Like the flatworms. They have organs, but no organ systems. Let's talk about the germ layers. It's a primitive layer of cells that forms during embryonic stage. There are three that are ectoderm, endoderm, and the mesoderm. The ectoderm, it's the outermost layer. It becomes the skin and the nervous system. The endoderm, it's the innermost layer. It becomes the digestive system. While the mesoderm, it's in the middle layer. It becomes the blood, muscles, and bones. The body symmetry. It may be primitive animals exhibit radial symmetry, or it may be bilateral symmetry, as in sophisticated animals. Generally, the echinoderms is an exception because they have an advanced phylum and exhibit bilateral symmetry as larvae. Don't forget that most bilateral symmetrical animals are trioblastic. It means they have three layers that are ectoderms, mesoderm, and endoderm. What's meant by civilization? Civilization, it means development of a head. Simple animals are sponges, and the cnidaires, they don't have a head end. But more sophisticated animals, beginning with flatworms and ending with chordates, all show civilization. What's meant by coelom? Coelom, it's a fluid-filled cavity that is completely surrounded by mesoderm tissue. Coelomates, they don't have a coelom. Their bodies are flat and all are in direct contact with their watery environment like the flatworms. Pseudocoelomates, as nematodes or rounded worms, they have a fluid-filled tube between the endoderm and the mesoderm that acts as a hydrostatic skeleton to support the animal.